Welcome to your quantum journey. Today we have an amazing guest, Miss Dawna Miller. Dawna spent 34 years as a high school biology and physical education teacher and is now a master teacher of integrated energy therapy. She's a Reiki master, shamanic practitioner who's currently teaching shamanism classes. She's a Munaiki. Did I say that right, Miss Dawna?
Munaki.
Munaki, rights facilitator, teacher of star knowledge laws, and a specialist in angel spirit communications. Welcome, Dawna Miller. I am so excited to learn where your quantum journey began.
Thank you, Misty. I appreciate that. Appreciate you having me on. It seems like I've been on this journey, started it all my life when I was a little kid. I think most of us had that little instances here and there. It really started though after I was finished teaching. About 2 years before I retired teaching, I had an awakening of sorts through my son, who almost died.
Oh, wow.
And it's one of those things where we've always heard spirit starts to shake you into waking up and moving on your path. I ignored it for years, and then it took a big awakening for me to get on this path. So after his illness, and he did get on a path of recovery, it led me to really soul search myself because I had so many things running through me and questions and anger, frustration over this incident that I was very lost. I was
Now,
very
what year?
lost.
What year are we talking? What time frame?
2011.
Okay.
And when I really look back at it, it was about 2008 when
Okay.
things started shaking. But his incident started in 2011, and so it led me to do a lot of soul searching, which led me to Reiki.
Can
And
we
when
just pause for a moment there?
Sure.
Because so many people, as you know, and we'll get into the types of people that are coming to you right now to seek out your expertise. Do you find that so many people are dealing with loss of careers, loss of relationships, loss of a loved one, and it's really this catalyst that's probably serving as something very similar in their lives? Do you find that this is happening kind of broad based right now?
In different forms, yes, it's a sense of loss of community, maybe a spouse, they've lost a job. They're finding their way in the world to become much more convoluted. Things that they knew aren't jiving, so to speak, with them now. And so sometimes, and spirit will do those things. Spirit will propel you if you're going off the path, or it's time for you to wake up. They will propel you in a way in which that you do that. You can either do it willingly, or you can do it the hard way.
Yes,
So
we've all
yeah,
experienced that, I think.
yeah.
And so I didn't mean to, kind of stop you where you were
Oh,
talking
it's
about
okay.
the Reiki, but I think that's so important for people that are feeling that way or they're experiencing those things to know that they're not alone, certainly
Right.
in having that experience. So go ahead. So you started,
Oh,
did you?
I started searching. It was interesting. I kept finding feathers in my path everywhere. I mean, I had never found feathers before, not a lot. And I kept finding feathers at my feet in the oddest places. They would be all these different colors, and I started picking them up. And then I just started saying, why am I getting these feathers everywhere? And so then that kind of led me to looking into deeper into the spiritual world. And I just honestly, Spirit laid this book in front of me on Reiki in front of me one day. And I said, I think I'm supposed to investigate this. So I started going to a Reiki professional, and she told me, she said, Dawna, you need to be doing this.
Yeah.
And so I started, and I had a wonderful Reiki master to work with, and she opened my eyes to so many things. And I was just like a sponge. I just wanted more and more and more. And then I started to notice how Reiki made me feel, even when I was working on people and working on plants and working on the trees and working with the earth. And it just kind of propelled me into this place that I'm in now.
Isn't that funny that Reiki is a gateway for so many people? When I first started learning about energy myself, of course, I didn't know what I was doing, right? I didn't know about any of this. It was all so foreign to me. And I started learning about how we are energetic beings. And the first class that I went to, a friend of mine, took me to a Reiki class. And I remember walking into the building thinking, what am I doing? This isn't me. I don't, you imagine like yoga masters and Reiki masters being, somebody quite different than we are. And so I think it's really just assimilating the practices and learning how you can apply it in your life, no matter where you are. Do you find that to be for the clients you work with, that it doesn't have to be this massive transformation right out of the gate? It's just beginning to ask the questions.
Right. A lot of people, of course, they're not familiar with the word Reiki, especially in my area of the world. It's kind of like one of those foreign words,
Yeah.
But
Yes.
once they understand it, and I just try and tell them, I said, it's for me, it's like a massage for the soul. That's what I just kind
Oh,
of
that's
liken it
beautiful.
to.
Yeah.
And once they get on the table and they're able to relax and they just allow the energy to flow, when they get off the table, they're like, when can I have my next session?
Wow.
It's one of
Yeah.
those things. And I always caution them to let the energy really flow because it will stir stuff up.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, there are people that are uncomfortable with that stirring.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it can, but those who are ready to move on in their journey understand it. And they've known on some level that this energy is not healthy for them and that it needs to go, it needs to pass on through. They just don't know how. So that's
Well,
what I love about Reiki is it
yeah.
just helps them understand how energy gets stuck in their body and how they can let it go. And that's
That's
part
where
of
I
the
was going to
teaching.
take you. I was going to lead you to what you said so beautifully. People don't understand how energy gets stuck in the body at a cellular level.
Right.
And, it pushes the boundaries of some people's belief systems, but it's not only this lifetime, it's past lifetimes. And so as a practitioner, I know that you've seen many individuals come to you and they've been able to clear things that are kind of stuck from those past lifetimes. So
Right.
for those that might not know what shamanism is, how can we help them to understand it?
Oh my, I could be on here for 2 hours
I
talking,
know.
but I'll try to be concise. So, shamanism is a practice that's been around for millennia. It was around before before Christ. It's been around. Many people know it as people as herbalists, as medicine women, as the ones who control the weather, who can bring the weather in. I mean, shamanism has many titles,
Yeah.
but shamanism simply means one who sees between the realms,
Mm-hmm.
someone who works in both worlds, has a foot in both the spirit world and the physical world. And so they were the ones who helped keep the villages and the community intact. If you had someone who was having a physical malady, or if you had someone who was having mental issues, the shaman would be who you took them to because it was an imbalance. Many times it was an imbalance in the community, not just the individual. So the shaman would go into the spirit world to find out where the imbalances were and bring back the information from the old one, from the ancestors, from the spirit world, from the angelic realm, and bring back the instructions on how to regain harmony within that village and within that person. And none of the I would say treatments, none of the treatments brought back were ever punitive like we see in our society. It was all about bringing that person back into coherence with the energy that was there before the condition happened. So it was
Mm-hmm.
really about reestablishing the harmony. And that's kind of how what we've gotten away from in years because as we developed as societies, then shamanism, the medicine men, all of the old ways were destroyed
Right.
because they were thought of as demonic, against the teachings of the church, and so on and so forth. But the shamanic skills have, they always lived because they
Yes.
lived in us.
Yes.
It's in our DNA. Every one of us on this planet were probably a shaman, a shaman's apprentice, or in some way, shape, or form, a medicine person.
Right.
Everyone. So we hold that knowledge in our DNA. And the time is right now on this planet for those old ways, those old teachings to be brought back,
Mm-hmm.
because we are living in such disharmony with the earth.
Absolutely. And I think, in my study of shamanism, all of a sudden I just was attracted to books. It's just kind of just
Mm.
dropped into my awareness, similar to you. You start finding the feathers, or I started seeing a particular type of a bird all of the time, and it led me to this. And as I began to read it, I understood, at least from my perspective, it seemed like it really helped with those sacred practices that reconnected us to the rhythms of nature and the rhythms of really who we are at a divine level. Do you feel that that's also something that you found?
Oh, yes, because when we started abusing our Mother Earth, when we started using her as a resource, and not as a source of
Right.
our spirituality, of our connection with the earth. When we started abusing her, that's when our decline started. That's when our decline with the connection within the earth. Misty, in the old days, we communicated via a telepathy or
Yes.
language with the plants and the animals, and they taught us how to live in harmony. That's how we know how to use so many plants. They spoke to us.
Yeah.
The trees are the wisdom keepers, that we learned the teachings of the earth from the trees, and the plants were there to tell us, okay, this works well, but don't do this. And so we communicated and we lived in such harmony at one point in time. But then as our ego grew and as man become kind of full of ourselves, we lost that ability, because we didn't
Yeah.
regard them as holy beings that they are. We regarded them as being subservient. And so we forgot. I won't say we lost, we forgot. We didn't remember our connection to the earth. And when we start remembering that wholeness and that connection with the earth, with our teachers, they are our teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And when we remember that and we start to renew that and we start to go out in nature and rediscover that divineness, then that wholeness and that harmony comes back. And then we can remember those sacred teachings, that it's in our DNA.
Absolutely. Don't you think that we have to kind of rise to a level of once again being deserving of having the knowledge returned? Because I know I think within our lifetime, we look at the Native Americans and we understand how they have managed to preserve, although there's been a great effort to eradicate even
Right.
their most sacred traditions. They seem to be the example we can point to, that they've remained connected to the earth and the cosmos and the astrology, and they understood how those hermetic principles, as above, so below, as within, so without. We are a reflection of what goes on in the cosmos. So, do you see a resurgence of those Native American practices coming through in modalities like shamanism?
Oh, absolutely. Um, it's almost like, I will say indigenous teachings, because it's around the world. It's just not Native American, it's indigenous people, the teachings. And it was prophesied through many cultures that this time would come. And
Yes.
we've heard of the Rainbow Warriors, and some of the indigenous people of those tribes have forgone those teachings. And it's the ones who are not of that culture who are coming back to those teachings, because let's face it, we know in other lifetimes we've been every color, we've been
Right.
every nationality. And so we're remembering that connection now. Even though you may be in the form of a Caucasian person, you are remembering those teachings now. It's a stirring, it's a calling. And so people are anxious, they are eager, I should say, eager to get back to what they know, what's stirring in them. And it
Yes.
is that deep connection to the earth and the old
Mhm.
teachings,
I see a
because
lot of,
they worked
yeah.
then, and they're sorely needed now.
And I think people are starting to be drawn back into nature. They're starting to look at the work life balance. They're starting to look at what matters most in life. Is it working 80 hours a week to try to earn a paycheck? Or, ironically, COVID really taught us a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
those things, that a slowdown is not always a bad thing, although there was tremendous loss that went along with that. what lessons we
Sure.
learned from that time. So I love that you mentioned the indigenous, because I think that's such a great way to rephrase it. So do you find that people are kind of reconnecting when they come to you? Are they feeling this stirring and they really don't understand what it is? Is that some of what your work is right now, just helping people to understand what's going on with me? I feel like these things are happening. I'm having dreams. I'm finding the feathers. I'm seeing the birds. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
this means. Are you seeing that? Because I know I see a lot of that. People are just wondering what is going on.
Oh yeah, and a lot of times, unfortunately, it has to be it's something rather earth shattering to their lives. It
Yeah.
can be a breakup in a
Yes.
relationship, a long term relationship, or something of that nature. Um, some people, it's just a disconnect between just everything. It's
Yeah.
just, everything. It's a stirring. It's hard to describe what it is. It's just a stirring. It's a knowingness that people have never felt before. And it's
Yes.
here. I had this one lady, she swore she was having a heart attack. And I said, and she had all these tests, all that stuff done. And I said, no, you're not having a heart attack. It's spirit. It's spirit speaking to you. It's kind of like almost not an anxiety attack, but it's this. I have a place where I teach people. It's I call it your soul heart. I don't know what other people call it, but there's a place on your sternum that, and I'll show them where to place their hands, and it will be very tender. It will be very
Mhm.
sore. And so after I do some exercises with them, the soreness and the tenderness is completely gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would tell them, this is your soul's way of saying, wake up.
Yeah.
It's
It's
time
time.
to
It's
wake
time.
up. And they just
Yeah.
don't understand some of this stuff. So, and I always tell people it's not a bad idea, especially at my age, to have Western medicine get a checkup.
Sure.
You know,
Absolutely.
and it can work together. And then when they've got that clean bill of health, this is the way I say it. Spirit, I just ask spirit to send people to me who need to come to me.
Yes.
That's how I work.
Me
And
too.
so that's how it happens. And so once they come here, we get into some deep discussions. And
Hmm.
a lot of times it's this aha movement, this aha moment.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then sometimes for people, they will take some time to really digest it because it is deep, and we know that it's a
Yes.
deep resonance. It's a deep, oh my goodness,
Layers.
this is really
Layers.
happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Layers.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I see.
I also see a lot of, and I'd like your opinion on this, people beginning to change frequency. So as their energy moves and shifts through this
Hmm.
awakening, they begin to change in frequency, and suddenly they don't resonate with people or
Right.
things outside of themselves. They'll be sitting in maybe a place that they've been many times before with people that they've sat next to many times before, and all of a sudden it's almost like a light switch. They don't feel connected to them, or they don't feel
Right.
connected. I see this a lot with particular churches that they've gone to. I see it with relationships. Somebody is feeling a lot of guilt because they feel as if they've just fallen out of love. And it's not that, it's a frequency shift. It's all of a sudden, boom, you've just come into a different frequency and you don't even know what's happened to
Right.
you. And so then you're trying to put the emotional wreckage back together and not fall into these feelings of the ego. Oh, I should feel guilty about not wanting to go there anymore. I should feel guilty about not wanting to be in this relationship. What's your experience with that?
I you know um I see this a lot. I have a lot of people who have their racial relationships have broken up, marriages
Yeah.
have broken up,
Yeah.
relationships have ended. They've moved on from their mom, dad, children, whatever, and they go through the typical stages of death, which those are endings, and they go through the typical stages of death. But when I try to explain it to them that it is just like you said, that change in frequency, I liken it. I say, we've got this ladder, okay, and here you are on the sixth rung,
Mhm.
but the people you've been associated with, they're down here at the third rung. You don't like the chit chat anymore.
The
You can't,
gossip.
the
Yeah.
gossip, the chit chat, the drinking, the
Yeah.
drugs, or, whatever it
Right.
might have been that you engaged in, um, and the friends. And you're up here now. And I say, this is a good thing because you have risen up the ladder of evolution of your soul.
Yeah.
You are reconnecting to spirit. And spirit kind of demands that when you say yes, which obviously if you come to me, you're saying yes, that you have to leave them behind in love. I always say in love.
Yeah, I just got
Surround
chills
them.
when you said that.
Yeah,
When you said leave it behind, and I just felt that all over because I think people are feeling that right now. They're
mm,
feeling that calling and they're struggling with the what I'm leaving behind.
right. Because it's just been ingrained. This is how we should act. This is how we should think. This, da 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 da. And so when people start to think for themselves and they get out of that matrix, so to
Programming.
speak,
Yeah.
they get out of that and they start following their heart because this is where the answers are, and they're not following things from the head. Worlds start to open up to them.
Yes.
And I will tell people, I say, because I've been there, this has happened to me. I said, it is lonely, but you will not be lonesome.
Yes. It's
And
a great
I said, and
explanation.
you won't be lonely because you'll be guided to your tribe. And it's wonderful when you see people connect with the tribe. It's like their eyes open up
Yeah.
and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you people were out here,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
And it's just wonderful. And then what ends up happening, the questions start to come. They get excited, and that's when I get excited when I
Yeah.
see that. But I also know, I also tell them, I said, to be realistic, these leaving behind can be very it can be a struggle for some
Yes.
people, and some people go back to it because they just aren't ready for that commitment. It's their journey.
I call it wearing the dirty coat. Sometimes that dirty coat is so comfortable and you feel naked when you take it off.
Right.
And, for many of us, I know for me, it was like a 4 or 5 year process of just shedding layers and relationships and
Yeah.
people and things that I was involved in, things I was passionate about. And suddenly I became the observer of everything I thought and did and said. And I began to evaluate, does this have a purpose in my life? Does this align with my mission that I feel like I'm being led to step into? And if it didn't, it had to go. And
Right.
I still very much really love just being in my own authenticity and not worrying about what other people think anymore. We live in a fairly judgmental community. I don't know if you know that, Dawna.
Oh, I know
And
where I live.
yeah, yeah. And so, I've been a part of that, and I've had to own that, and I've done things I'm not proud of, and so I had to kind of reconcile all those things inside of me. And I think so many people are going through this right now. So if some people call it the dark night of the soul, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's, it feels like everything in your whole world falls apart. That certainly happened to me in 2017. Like everything that I loved just was gone, and I had to rebuild. But
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like the phoenix rising from the ashes. You have to fall apart to start clean with a new foundation. Do you see that happening on a global stage as well? This collective falling
Oh,
away of
yeah.
everything that was for the rebuilding.
We're seeing it on a massive label now, or a massive level now, not just individualistic. And it was happening individualistic, but we need it to happen globally in order to accelerate what needs to happen because we can't wait anymore. And you're exactly right. The old has to be obliterated so you can build it on a firm foundation because it was not firm. It was built on lies, it was built on conditioning, it was
Greed.
built on false beliefs, all of those things. The shoulda, coulda, wouldas. It was built on all of those things. You weren't living in authenticity, you weren't living your soul's journey. And so, what has to happen is everything, the rugs has to be pulled out from under you, which, like I said, it was from when my son almost died. It was pulled out completely. And so, what happens, Misty, is when that happens, you are in complete surrender.
Yes.
And that's when spirit can enter. Because unless we surrender completely and fully, there's always going to be resistance. And when you get to that point and you say, Creator, I'm done. I just hand it over to you because I can't do this anymore by myself. I need you. And when you say that word, come to me.
Yes.
I need you. They are there because we have to invite them in.
With surrender.
And with
Surrender.
surrender, with
Yes.
surrender. And so we're seeing that on a global basis now, all of the garbage that we have been entrenched in
Yeah.
for so long, and people are just tired of it. And it's taking some and people are taking, they're having to be, how shall I say it, just reduced to rubble practically. Many people have
Yes.
lost everything.
Yeah.
And it's not punitive. It is that darkness. I put a post on Facebook the other day when the angels were speaking to me. They wanted me to reiterate that the darkness is our teacher.
Yes.
Because in the darkness, that little speck of light will be shown.
Yeah.
And we'll get more curious and more curious about that light. And soon we will want that light because we don't resonate with the darkness anymore.
Right.
So the darkness shows us what we don't want to be, and the light shows us who we need to be or who we want to be.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. And I didn't ask you ahead of time how you feel about this. So this may or may not work out well for me. One of the things that changed my life the most was the belief that we all at a soul level really kind of choose the way we come into each incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
We choose our families, we choose the life lessons we want to learn. And that may include some really difficult challenges here in what a lot of people refer to as schoolroom earth. I've heard that by many of my mentors. And so if somebody has dealt with something really difficult, having the courage to stand up and say, I chose that for myself. Now, I don't know how you feel about this. I don't know if that's your belief system. If it is, can you help people to really kind of open up this conversation of ownership and how that can kind of change your path entirely if you take yourself out of victimization status and begin to have just extreme ownership of everything in your life?
I know. Yeah, I know that is my belief. I mean, that because
Okay.
that's what I've been shown through spirit. That's when I go and I do communicate with some of those who have passed on. That's what they show me.
Right.
They take ownership. You know, sometimes they do. Uh, Most of them take ownership when they pass to the other side of everything that has happened. But when I have a client, you know, there's this fine line that has gone through some trauma. I know that the thing with my son, if somebody had told me that I had chosen this, if he had chosen this and stuff at that time, I would have closed my mind off. So, I mean,
Right.
as a practitioner, there's a fine line of when to approach a person with this information.
Yes.
On a soul level, they know it.
Right.
When they come to me, I know they know.
Yeah.
But so we have to lead them with TLC
Mm-hmm.
to that awareness.
Yeah.
But what they have shown me is when we come down, we contract, we with every person that we're going to see, with every experience that we're going to do, everything that we experience here on this earth, we have planned out for
Yeah.
whatever journey that we're on. And I know it can be very difficult for some people who've gone through some horrendous experiences, something that I can't even imagine that they have gone through, and they have come out on the other side in a much more positive way, in a way that, you know, a lot of people wouldn't expect them to. And those are the ones that are really have learned the lesson through what they went through.
Yes.
Others do not. And they will
Wow.
go back to repeating some of those patterns.
If it
And
keeps
so
showing
that
up, if it keeps showing up.
exactly. And
Yeah.
and you know, I don't call it karma. I don't, because we got off the karma wheel a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's simply, I'm choosing to learn this lesson in this lifetime. How can I do that? And so they present that to you, and you go through this lifetime, and maybe you don't learn it. And so the next time it's like you get to the other side and you're like, darn it, I really messed that up. I didn't learn that at all.
Yeah.
So how can we present it in the next lifetime so that I learn it? And so that's what happens. And sometimes we learn that through being a male.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes this next time it's a female. You
Right.
know, it just depends upon what that lesson is. But normally when I have somebody and we've had a few sessions and we find these patterns, and they always know the patterns, and I will ask them, well, how do you feel about these patterns? You keep doing the X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that? Where do you think this is coming from? And inevitably, 8 out of 10 people will go, well, I think it's a past life. And now I
Wow.
know I can speak to them. You know,
That's
now I
great.
know that I can
Mm-hmm.
talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So some people, you just have to approach it very gently with
Yeah.
them. But
I
most
love
people
that.
know.
And I love that you say that. As you know, I do quantum hypnosis.
Mhm.
And oftentimes when someone comes in with a desire to connect with some type of healing or an understanding of why they've manifested an illness or an understanding of, I've had several clients that are wanting to know why they have a disabled child, or
Right.
they're asking about contracts in this life. Why would I have chosen this? Or they lost a child. I've had have clients that want to know, why would I have chosen to do this? And so
Yeah.
sometimes they're seeking things and they're thinking it's a past life, and when we get into it, it's actually something that's happened in this life and they've locked it down. It's like that
Mm.
trauma response. Something's happened to them and they've locked it down so deep that it's just sitting there energetically in their body and it's causing this distortion. And so, taking us back full circle to where you mentioned it earlier, this time that we're living in now has been prophesied for millennia. Do you find that a lot of clients that are coming in right now are experiencing like more things than maybe we probably would have in past lives, because there's this acceleration of all things that we're trying to kind of clear up at a generational level? Do you see that people that have incarnated right now really have a lot of ancestral trauma and negative energy that they're trying to clear up?
Um, I don't know that it's any more. Well, it's any more. Let me back up. So what I have learned is this is why we're here on this earth right now, is we are clearing all of our ancestral bundles.
Right.
We call them bundles in the shamanic
Yeah.
word. We call these bundles that our ancestors have passed on to us because we carry it in our DNA. We
Right.
carry our ancestor in our DNA. We carry our past life experiences in our DNA. So we're full of these experiences. And now the time is right before we move on to this new earth, and with this new Neptune and Aries for the next 14 years. In a few months, it'll be fully in 14 years. Great things are going to explode. Great things
Yes.
are on our horizon. But having said that, it's imperative that we clear for our ancestors. We
Right.
clear all of the past for our ancestors, because when we clear it for our ancestors, we clear it for our descendants. And that's so important for this next 7 generation. What we do now, and I'm getting all tingly now, what we're doing now,
Yeah.
it's a gift. It's a gift to our descendants. They don't have to carry the burdens. That's why so many of us are going to healers now, because we don't really know what we're carrying right off the bat.
Right.
But when we go to our healers and they're able to reveal this, we're like, oh my gosh, my mom did this, my grandma did this, da 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 da.
Yes.
And so when I explain to them, it's a gift for you to be able to do this for your ancestors, and look at what you're going to be giving your descendants. It's a gift that you can do this. So it's not looking at it like in despair, or, oh, why me? Or, I'm a victim, yada, yada. Let's put this in a different perspective. Look at what you're going to be able to do for the earth, for everything.
I love
And
that.
we,
And you hit on a interesting subject that some of our viewers might not have been exposed to yet. So let's just break it open. We're having a open conversation anyway. Why not just go there? So heaven and earth, right?
right.
There's this kind of coming together, and there's a lot of tradition, there's a lot of prophecy, there's a lot of religious speculation on how this will happen. It might be a rapture, it might be ascension. I didn't even know what ascension meant until 2019, and suddenly I was like, what is this? And then it's a raising of the frequency, and I start studying Hinduism and Buddhism and all these different traditions, and I thought, wow, there's this common theme between all religions, and it talks about this time,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe we're living in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of whether you call it Christ consciousness or rapture or any of these different terms that have been used so beautifully, it is this merging of heaven and earth. And as we move into this new astrological cycle that you mentioned, we are prime to be able to elevate ourselves into this new space. So what can people do right now to begin clearing some of this energy and begin to recognize some of these patterns that might be manifesting themselves?
Well, a lot of times, sometimes it's somewhat difficult for a person to be objective when they're surrounded by what I call the ick or the hoocha. It's just the heaviness.
Yeah.
I always encourage people to step away from that and get some energetic healing, go to somebody who has, not in the midst of it all. They can see, they can be objective. And when you get yourself out of there, then that particular individual will be able to assist you in what I saw getting somewhat clear. And I realize that not everyone has the ability or the finances to do that.
Sure.
So if that's not the case for me, and I'm just saying it's for me, from around me, I do a lot of ceremonial work with people. We do full moon fires, we do new moon fires, we do a lot of blessings. And so I encourage anyone to come to any of these ceremonies, because that's a sacred place where we do a lot of work within a very sacred ceremonial environment. And I have seen some things happen in these ceremonies that get people propelled, get people awake, get people, oh my, that what was this about? Those type of things. Meditation is awesome. Meditation is, and I always tell my clients and everything, I said, it's imperative that you find a quiet place. Take 5 minutes. That's all it takes, is 5 minutes. Spirit just wants you to have a quiet time where you can speak to spirit. You can't speak to spirit on your phone. You can't speak to spirit while you're working. You can't speak to spirit while the TV on, the kids crying, the dogs are barking. But I said, you can devote 5 minutes a day. That's it. If you have to put yourself in your shoe closet with a candle,
right. Start there.
And I do. I mean, I tell 5 minutes, and so I will give them kind of a scenario to set themselves up for some success with the meditation. But I said, it specifically says, "Be still and know that I am." And I would tell them, it's in the stillness. It's in between the breath, the inhale and the outhale. It's in between the up and it's in between the down. It's in between the light and it's in between the dark, that you find those answers, that you find that little spark of light. Then you want more of that light. And so it doesn't have to be expensive. You can start on your own with meditations. And there's so many meditations to do. And I know a lot of my clients that do guided meditations. They find some on YouTube. I've given them some, but I just urge people to find that time for yourself. Reach out. Don't try to do this on your own. It's so difficult to do on your own. You don't know where to start. And once you do, because most people need to find that tribe, they need to find that support system, because to be honest with you, many of our family, when we start on this journey, they don't understand it.
Right.
It frightens them because we start to change. We start to look different, and they don't like it, or they do like it. And so we need that support system so we don't go down the ladder. We don't digress down this ladder of ascension. That's so important, which brings me to my next point. I want people to be aware of, when you start the journey, there will be resistance in your family, in your friends. But I am going to tell you what happens. And it's a beautiful thing. People start to see the change within you. They start to see you become calm. They start to see that spark in your eye of knowingness. They start to see the kindness that maybe was kind of there, but it's really out there now. They see this wonderful light about you, and they want it.
I call it a glow.
Yeah, right.
There's a glow. Yeah.
They want that glow. And they ask, what are you doing? You got some new makeup, or are you brushing your teeth more, whatever it might be. And you tell them what you've been doing, and they're like, really? And so eventually what happens is they want more. They want to be like that. And so when you do this, know that you're not doing this just for yourself. You are doing this for humanity. You're doing it for the earth. And it is kind of selfish. I love it. I want more and more and more. So it's just kind of like, you bring it in more and more and more, but you're also, those who are meant to go will go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's no judgment. I think one of the big things for me was to understand that some people have a contract in this lifetime, and their journey is not to
Mm.
raise their frequency. Their journey is to continue on a path of enjoying the material world and the things that it
Right.
has to offer. And so there's no judgment about other people being on a different path or making
Right.
different choices. So probably allowing myself to fall out of judgment is one of the biggest hurdles
Right.
I had to overcome, to not try to impress my opinion. I mean, I used to be in politics, Dawna, so I wasn't the most
Wow.
opinionated person. And anybody that knows me would be like, yep. And I had to do these community movements because I was fighting for something, not even realizing that whatever you fight against, you only feed it energetically. You entangle your energy, and quantum science is doing a beautiful job of marrying all these things together so that people, whether they come from a more religious type background, spiritual background, or scientific background, it's really blending the two where science and spirituality come together. But that was the hardest thing for me, is taking myself out of this judgment and letting each person have their own individual perspective. And so my intention with this podcast is just to help give a resource where there wasn't a resource for me, or not that I could find, when I started going through all these things. So my friends thought I was nuts. I can tell you, some of my friends still think I'm nuts. People were mean. They would tell me that they would send ugly messages on Facebook. And it was really
Mm.
hard to stay on the path because I was so excited about it. I wanted to share it. I was like, oh my gosh, look what I figured out. And I remember the first time that I actually heard back from a prayer. And it wasn't after spending 35 years in an organized church. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about it. Everybody, there are people that are divinely connected that go to church every day. For me, I wasn't one of those people. I was praying a lot, but I was praying outside of me and using other
Mm.
people, and I was putting other people on pedestals that I shouldn't have. So for me, this allowed me to pray and to get a response, and to pray and get a response. And that that connection was like nothing I had ever experienced. It's like, hey, you can hear back. You can, I
Right.
wanted to tell everybody, I wanted to share that, but not everybody is ready for it. And me respecting that was a big part of my growth. Do you find that you've mentioned it a couple of times, so I know it's part of your practice, but really meeting people where they are, wherever that may be, and not having
Mm-hmm.
any judgment about it?
Yes, and that I think is probably the hardest thing for human beings, is not to judge.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't realize that we're judging. I mean, when we say something really overt, then we know. But just for instance, if you see somebody in the store and say, "Wow, she really shouldn't be wearing those pants," there's a judgment.
Right.
You know, and we can't. And so it's catching ourselves in that moment to allow people to be where they are.
Yeah.
And that's part of the beauty about working with yourself. I mean, when you can do that, you know that you've cleared a lot of the stuff within you, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just a constant process. And oh, it was I just had a brain fart. It just kind of went out at one end. It'll probably come back. But anyway, the judgment part, I think, for society is probably the reason we are the way we are now. We judge everything.
Yes.
We
And we
judge
label it. We label everything.
labels.
Yeah.
Labels are just so harmful. I did a thing the other day. It was very, I try to teach. I mean, the Irish have a wonderful way, the Celtic people have a wonderful way of saying things, and I've tried to adopt this. Instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, I have a headache," you say, I have my head is, I have a headache upon me now." That's the way it was. "I have a headache upon me," or "Sadness is upon me." I'm not sad. And people have a problem with labeling people. I had a thing the other day, it was regarding an addict, and this person said that this addict's uh, was sinning because of stealing, and they were committing more sin. And I thought about this for a moment, and I thought, that is one of the that could be very harmful to somebody who is trying to get clean. They
Right.
may be in the throes of addiction, and the last thing that they probably need is to have one more label put on them as a sinner.
Right.
And so I spoke on my Facebook page about this. I said, if we can look at people and say, this person is in the throes of addiction, they are not an addict. That's a label.
Yeah.
They are in the throes of addiction and they stole from someone, but that doesn't mean they're a thief.
Thief. Yeah.
That does not mean they have sinned, because the word sin simply means to release, or you miss the mark. That's all the sinning means. But we have taken that word as to mean that we are lower than worms in the dust. So if you're already in the throes of addiction and you are labeled as a sinner, how does that make one feel? I mean, my heart hurts just thinking about that for that person. Right. So that's a judgment. That is a judgment. So if we can catch ourselves judging ourselves first and saying, wow, man, that what I just did was just horrible, blah, blah, blah. And that's a judgment. If we can catch ourselves saying, wow, that was very uncharacteristic of me, I won't be doing that again. Instead of labeling yourself with something you aren't, because we are perfect in the eyes of our Creator. We are perfection. We're the ones who label people to kind and keep them down, to try and suppress their power. And once we stop labeling ourselves and others, we regain our power and we can become very powerful beings of light just by doing that one thing. And that's to stop judging.
Well, and I love what you said. I was actually going to take you there, but you went ahead of me.
Oh.
And that is, which is fantastic, because I think we're really, on the same wavelength here. But I really started looking at the way that I talked about myself. And you hit on that. We are so critical of ourselves. And I love to go back to spelling. You're actually casting spells with the words that you speak. And so oftentimes I have the blessing of being able to work with a large team. And sometimes when they're being critical about themselves, I can help to coach them and say, let's go back and find a different way to phrase this. As you mentioned, when people say I'm always doing this, what if we go back and we don't say we're always doing it, because we're almost speaking that into existence. But on this occasion we did this, and next time we're going to do it different. But it's that speaking kindly to ourselves and speaking kindly about ourselves. I think it really helps you to observe your thoughts before you ever let yourself speak them about somebody else.
Right. I'll tell, I've got people who just live in the past and they just are stuck in, I don't know if it's victimhood and shame because of something that they did in the past, and it may have hurt someone. Yeah. And so I asked them, I said, would you do that now? Oh, goodness, no. I said, then why do you keep bringing this up from the past? That was a lesson for you. And if you keep bringing this up, you have not learned that lesson. You're keeping yourself in a pattern of shame and of victimhood. And I will say, are you a victim? No. And the shame is a useless waste of your energy. It takes your power away. Just know this happened so you would know not to do it again. It was a lesson. That person that maybe this happened to, maybe they haven't forgiven you. That's okay. You have forgiven yourself. You have realized what happened. It's not happening now because you're just such a newer person, a brand new version of yourself, and you're moving on. And you cannot understand, you just can't hold on to the perception of others. So move on knowing that you have learned, and you can, and you're just going to do a little bit better now. Like I said, sin means to miss the mark. You simply erred. And that particular word was meant to keep us powerless, because if we are kept in that word of sin, then it just pushes us down. Think about what that word, we've heard it enough. It makes you shrink. You shrink from your power. You feel worthless. Dirty. And so when you say, I have missed the mark on that, that simply means I have another chance to do better the next time. And you feel better about yourself because you have learned that lesson, right? And so the words matter. Words matter. What your vibration matters. When I teach people the songs and the prayers and whatever, I say you must say these out loud because your vibration carries power. And it's not to say that your prayers internally don't work, because they do, but when you say that, your voice is a song. Your voice is a song to the Creator. Your Creator gave it to you. No one else has this song but you. And so that vibration that you bring into the world with your prayers, with your words, can destroy or can create. What do you want to do? Create or destroy? So by rephrasing these words, by talking kindly to you, by talking kindly to another, you don't maybe have to condone their energy or what they maybe have done, but you can speak in a way that does not demean them or belittle them or squash them down, because look at what it felt like for you, right?
Yeah. And you talked about your own unique voice. We also have our own unique frequency that we kind of
Mm-hmm.
broadcast. It's our own individual signature. I want to kind of get into a conversation with you then in the words that you say and the frequency that you hold. Let's talk about intention. How does
Mm.
intention really come into the conversation, Dawna?
Oh, wow. Intention is like 90% of everything. In shamanism, it's intention. That's it.
Yeah.
That's how things work. It's your
Yeah.
intention. Your intention is behind everything. Everything. In
Mhm.
shamanism, it's your intention, your songs, and your prayers. Those three things.
Mhm.
And so your intention is your motivation behind something. What is it? What is it in your psyche? What is it in your consciousness behind it? It's kind of like some of those texts. We're going to get on there. We start texting away, and your motivation is, by golly, I don't like what she said, and I'm going to eat, you know.
Yeah.
And then I always tell people, wait, because I have done that before and sent that and going, oh my goodness, my intention wasn't pure. It was to harm someone.
Right.
So intention is everything. What is your intention behind your prayers? What is your intention on your meat? It's even with your meals. Is your
Mhm.
intention to create this beautiful, sumptuous meal, or is it just to have cheese and crackers? And that's okay. Your intention is to nourish your body or whatever it is.
Right.
So your words have such power. So what is, and I try to tell people, what are the intentions behind your words? Is
Mhm.
it, again, is it to harm or is it to
Right.
create? And if
Mhm.
it's to create, then we want to create this beautiful song, this beautiful vibration that comes from you. It's coming from your heart, you know. And so, like I said, your vibration is sacred. Now, one other thing, though, I want you to know that there are other people on this earth that resonate with the only your vibration. So, Misty, you have a certain vibration. I have a certain vibration.
Right.
And so our vibrations sometimes, they mesh because we might be on the same wavelength, but they're still a little bit different.
Right.
When you sing your songs, and I truly mean singing your songs, but your prayers can be songs, your words can be your songs. When you say your songs and when you pray, that vibration goes out to the world, and those people who are in resonance with you will feel your vibration. It will lift them up. So if you've got someone in India and they're at a very low place and you're not, and you're praying for the world, and you're praying for humankind, and you're praying for anyone who is feeling in this low place in your morning prayers, it is felt by that person. It will lift them up. I guarantee you, it will lift them up. And that's why it's so important to say your prayers and to say them every day, because you do not know whose life you are impacting through those beautiful vibrational sounds that only you can speak. And that's why I'm such a proponent for prayer too in the morning. And it doesn't have to be, this long. It can
Right.
be something very simple, but you're lifting up the earth, and you're lifting up that one or two people that is in resonance with you.
So this is a little bit of a not a trick question. I don't want to say that, but for me, I felt like it was a huge epiphany to learn about how the indigenous prayed. And they
Mm-hmm.
prayed as if whatever their desire
Mm-hmm.
was had already been granted.
Right.
And so I feel like to some degree, we've been a little misled by asking for someone
Mm-hmm.
to be healed, because
Right.
saying that they need to be healed indicates that they are sick. And so we are almost praying sickness into them. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at the indigenous ways that they went about really communicating with the divine. And so I've tried to change, I haven't tried, I've changed the way that I communicate prayer. So
Right.
I no longer pray things into existence. And I know your background in shamanism, people will really connect the dots when I say, if there was a tribe that hadn't had rain for 2 months, they would go out and they would do the rain dance, giving great thanks and dance and song and music for the rain that they had received, even though they were in the middle of a drought. And this was how they prayed in affirmation. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. That's actually how we're taught in, if you read into the Bible, and it's in there and it's stuck in there. And I love listening to some of the Bruce Lipton and some of them.
Me too.
They will speak about how this language has been twisted so that people don't know the power that they have.
Yes, Greg
And the
Braden.
indigenous people knew this.
Yes.
And this is the thing that I do teach my clients and everything. I was like, pray as if it is happening now.
Yes.
You have it's a manifestation. It's your vision, because
Yes.
if you're praying from poverty consciousness,
Yes.
oh dear, and in my shamanism classes, there are three ways in which really not to pray. There is kind of ways not,
Right.
because you're giving away your power,
Yes.
and you're not having the confidence. And the creator gave us this confidence. We are extensions of creator. We don't need to beg. We don't
Right.
need to ask. Ask and you'll be given. Be given.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. You pray as if you have it, because the creator wants us to have it now. But
Right.
when we keep asking for it, that's what the angelic realm hears. They hear us. Oh, please, creator, we need rain. Oh, please pray. We need rain. Well, you're asking. You're praying as if you're in poverty consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And when you pray, thank you, Creator, for this beautiful rain that is falling upon us and will continue to fall us upon us.
Right.
In those ways. Just as if you're praying for someone to be healed, we don't pray for them to be healed because, number one, we don't know their journey.
Right.
Their journey may be to experience what they're going through.
Right.
And if we pray for them to be healed, and enough of that vibration is together, and that person is healed, then guess what that person's going to have to do in another lifetime?
Be sick again.
Do it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So we don't pray for them to be healed. What we pray for is that we see them. I have people envision them in their light, in like I would be seeing myself in my light. I would be standing next to the person. I would be holding their hand, and I would say, we are enveloped in the divine light of our creator. I stand with you in your journey, in this journey that you're walking. Know that you will never be alone. And I am extending my help in any way that I possibly can. That's it. That's it. And when you do that, that spirit knows they are not alone. That spirit knows if they need, and there's the part of the intention, because the intention behind the prayer is not to give away your light, it's to stand with them in the light, to help them realize they have the power and the light to overcome or to endure what they need to endure.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what you do, and that's the way I teach people to do their prayers. And I will tell you, Misty, most people are like, wow, we really like that. It's empowering.
It's so empowering to not feel as if you're in a victim consciousness. And one of the things that I love most, I actually started listening to Abraham Hicks early on. It was my first, like putting my foot in the water. And she would often say that you can speak yourself and pray yourself into poverty just like you can abundance. And,
Mm-hmm.
coming from a place of, I really hope I have enough money, or God, please let me have enough money to just pay the bills. And it's this type of lack that we stand in. And so
Yes.
energetically, whether you believe in very religious practices or you believe in more universal principles, it's all the same thing, that we attract the
Mhm.
vibration that we carry. And if we stand in a place of lack, that's what we attract to ourselves. So when I'm
Right.
working with clients, and your video is frozen, I have to tell you, I was kind of hoping it
Oh.
would correct itself, but it's not come back around yet. But your audio is fine, so I figure we're almost finished. But
Hmm.
we are very energetic, and we it's almost like a boomerang. So whatever you're putting out, if you don't like what's happening in your life, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, and everywhere you look there's always a shortage of something, you can tie it back almost 100% of the time to a belief. And there is a belief that there's not enough, or there's a scarcity or a lack foundation in your life. And so these are some of the things that we can help through energy practices. As you and your beautiful introduction, you have so many different venues to be able to help individuals. So Dawna, if people want to reach out to you, what is the best way to get in contact with you for any of the different modalities that you offer?
I'm on Facebook. You can contact me in Messenger, or I'm there, or my email is my name, Dawna Miller 76 at yahoo.com. I'm kind of old school yet. I don't have a website. I've been trying to work on it for a few months, but it's like, I'll get there
No,
one day.
projects,
Yeah,
projects, right?
projects. Yeah.
And I'm going to try to create a page on my website to be able to offer each of you a space, because I think it's so important right now that all of these collaborative healers and holistic practitioners come together and provide resources to our community, because it's going to be greatly needed, especially as we go through what I think is going to be a turbulent year,
Mm.
and provide these services to individuals who are beginning to seek them. So thank you for sharing your expertise, your wisdom. I am so appreciative of you taking the time to be with us today on your quantum journey. Any closing thoughts, Miss Dawna, before we close out today?
I thank you, Misty, for allowing me to be on your program. I'm so appreciative. And I would just like to say to everybody, I wish everyone well on your journey, whatever that may be. And just may you be in light, and may you be surrounded by love, and just go in peace and harmony, because everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to turn out the way it's supposed to turn out. And you are so loved by the universe and all of your guides and spirit animals, and in the realm.
I love that so much. Please, if you enjoyed this interview, we're going to have a lot more like Miss Dawna, as well as going back and revisiting, going in deeper. I asked earlier if she would be willing to come back and really let's take a deep dive into some of these other modalities that she is an expert in. She did agree to do that. So if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe. And thank you for joining us today on your quantum journey. Until next time, namaste, everyone.